It's time to go on the record with WRAL News.
Thanks so much for joining us for On the Record. I'm Lena Tillett. Our series of candidate conversations continues tonight with the race for mayor of Raleigh, which is becoming more and more crowded. 5 candidates have now said they plan to run, and more could soon announce, including incumbent mayor Mary-Ann Baldwin. The election comes at a time when the city of Oaks appears to be at a critical moment of defining itself. What is its character? Here are just a few recent proposals around the city. Developers continue to try to build taller and taller towers, including one south of North Hills across the Beltline. The city is considering designating the Blue Ridge Road corridor around PNC Arena as a municipal service district, the first one in more than a decade. Even where the city conducts its business, City Hall is getting a new look, a $200 million facelift. 17 stories should be built by 2026. All of this coming as there is an uptick in crime, some petty, some violent, causing some business owners to close up shop, both downtown and around Glenwood South. Tonight, we are sitting down with 3 candidates about what their vision is for Raleigh on these issues and many more. Mayor Pro Tem Corey Branch is a city councilman representing District C. Janet Cowell is the current president and CEO of Dix Park Conservancy and the former state treasurer. And Paul Fitz is a mortgage broker running for mayor for the second time. Thanks so much for all of you joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thanks
nice to see you all. Ms. Cowell, I'd like to begin with you because you served on the city council in Raleigh in the early 2000s, then in the state senate, then as state treasurer, the first woman elected for that role, by the way. Then you got out of politics altogether. Why do you want to now get back into politics and run for mayor?
Well, I feel like my skill set could really be helpful at this juncture. I mean, understanding the budget and finances for my role as treasurer. The city has to work in partnership with the state, as we all know, in North Carolina, and understanding the General Assembly, having those relationships. And I love Raleigh. I have been working in partnership with the city over the last 3 years, and I feel called to do this.
What was it about politics back when you decided that you were done with it? What was it about it then that made you get out of it that you think you now are ready to approach?
Well, I really think of it more as service. And I've said, you know, my dad was a minister, so growing up had a sense of public service in a different way. And I feel like what I've been doing in the interim is also service, right? Building the park, working with young women to get more women into finance. So this will just be shifting gears again and getting back into electoral politics.
Councilman Branch, you have said that you and your colleague, Mayor Mary-Ann Baldwin, agree on many issues, but not necessarily on how to execute on those ideas. Can you give me an example of where you think maybe you would have a different approach, and what would it be?
I think one is look at what happened with CACs here in Raleigh. I voted to keep CACs at the time. Almost 4 years. Citizens Advisory Councils, almost 4 years to date. This February will be 4 years. So that in itself is an example of where I feel how we reach people, where we reach people, you know, I would address and I would do things differently. And I hope even before this election, we can make some inroads around CACs this year.
So you want to bring them back?
I do. I want to bring them back, not as they were. I want to bring them back with some modifications, been in conversations with residents throughout the city. And I think it's a great way, it's always been a great way, where the community and government officials and staff can meet, talk, discuss, to make sure we build this city together for everybody.
Mr. Fitz, this is your second time running for mayor.
Correct.
Why now?
I'll tell you, I've recognized some deficiencies going on in local government. One of the things that we haven't recognized is how the workforce has shifted out of downtown Raleigh. The primary workforce has been government, but since the pandemic, they've gone remote. So now we don't have people coming in every day. We don't have people at lunch counters. We don't have people coming in spending their dollar like they used to. Downtown Raleigh is starting to become a little bit of a ghost town. If we keep building the type of commercial properties that we're building now, and we don't focus on owner-occupied properties, we're going to start to have a problem with our finances here in the city of Raleigh. We're $2.5 billion in debt. We need to figure out how to bolster our police force on top of it. If we continue, and no offense to Janet, but if we continue to put money into parks versus police, we're going to be a crime city, and we shouldn't go that route.
Let's talk about the public safety part, because you have said on your website you want to hire 400 new
more police
Raleigh
officers.
police officers. But how can you deliver on that promise when the challenge of recruiting officers is so difficult statewide, not just for the Raleigh Police Department?
It doesn't have to be difficult. One of the things that we could do is literally set up a recruiting station right outside of Fort Liberty and start with the Army base when they retire or when they leave their service in the military. But the bigger issue is paying for it. We have no problem going into debt when we want to pay for a park, but it seems when it comes to our public safety, we kind of freak out on the city council. And the truth is, if we broaden our tax base, in other words, bring in more ownership, we can actually pay for more police.
I don't know if any of you wanted to respond to that.
Well, I was just to that point. We've done a lot of reaching out to different areas, to our universities, reaching out to Fort Liberty and former military, as far as law enforcement. But also when we look at public safety also includes fire. So we also have to look at, as our city is growing, we have to increase the number of firefighters that we have, the number of fire stations that we have, as well as our emergency our emergency workers that are answering the calls. So public safety, I know a lot of people, when they hear public safety, they automatically shift to police, but public safety is encompassing a lot of departments that keep people safe.
Really quickly, and then I want to move to development on the public safety aspect. Raleigh Police and private armed security guards are now working together, patrolling hot spots in downtown Raleigh around Moore Square and also in Glenwood South. And our reporting is showing that it's working. Is that something that you would continue as mayor?
It's something that I would definitely monitor and watch as we increase our police force over time. I think that's something we can pull back on. But also we have to look at, from the standpoint, police officers are not security officers. So their roles and their tasks are different. So we have to make sure we put the correct personnel in the correct place.
Ms. Cowell, how would you respond?
I would just add that our salaries are below surrounding towns. So it's not just recruitment, it's retention. And so we need to look at the salaries. I think the other program that has been really great, ACORN unit, which is about mental health, social services, not criminalizing people who need what they need is shelter or other services. So investing in those kind of programs would also be important.
Let's talk about the rapid development happening all over Raleigh. I think that most would agree that it's rapid. Ms. Cowell, in our reporting, a lot of people have told us that they essentially feel that they are time and time again in a David versus Goliath situation with these developers, that they have concerns about some of the infrastructure around the development, and they don't feel that they're being heard by the city. How do you respond to that? Do you agree? And how would you operate as mayor?
Well, I would go back to the CAC. We do need to reinstate CACs. I think they were very valuable, and I used them a lot when I was a counselor. So one of the important things is that you have the city facilitating the conversation with developers and not developers facilitating the conversation with citizens.
And you talked about there need to be more owner-operated
ownership.
How would you do that? How would you find people to own some of these properties?
It's still diversifying what we have. You have to recognize the state of North Carolina owns 161 properties in the city that pay no property taxes, by the way. Now, the 70-year-old contract, if you want to call it, was, hey, we employ people, so therefore we shouldn't pay taxes. Oh, by the way, we bring in tourism as well, so we shouldn't pay taxes. Well, since 2020, which was kind of predicted when the workforce became remote, the state has kind of broken that contract. So now we need to look at underutilized state-owned property, such as the prisons. I want to get rid of the prisons out of downtown Raleigh. I believe those can be livable, workable spaces if we can create townhomes, row homes, condos, and broaden our tax base and broaden our home ownership. A, that's going to help the businesses in downtown Raleigh, but B, that's also going to diversify our tax base to help that out.
We should say property taxes have absolutely nothing to do with the city of Raleigh, though. That's a state
It's a state law, by the way, but still, when you look at what we're not gaining in revenue because of those spaces, you have to look at the acreage, and you have to look at the size of the properties, the buildings themselves. With the square footage and the acreage, we're losing about $150 million a year in revenue. No city in the state has the burden that Raleigh does because of that.
Okay, Councilman Branch, obviously you're in the position right now of approving and denying some of these rezoning requests. This is a question that I think a lot of people want to know who live in these communities. What role do you think the city or developers should have in building up the infrastructure around some of these proposals?
So it's very important that we work together in a mutual relationship as far as developers, as they come in, us having those conversations, looking for benefits that come as far as parking. We also have benefits as far as replacing a lot of our aged infrastructure, as far as our water and our sewer. Some of that is happening now, and that comes in from fees that comes from development. So that is very critical and very key when we move forward.
So if you have a new development going up, do you think the city should be building sidewalks around those developments that are accommodating all of these new people coming into these communities?
So the way our code is actually written for any new development, they are to do infrastructure improvement, such as sidewalks, and in some area, road widening. So there is a place where if they are not able to increase, I just had a case this week, if they're not able to improve the road, they can pay in lieu. So it's a balancing act, but they are contributing to infrastructure improvement. Is it always dollar for dollar? From the time we do construction, from the time the money is paid, it may not exactly be, but they are paying a fee.
Ms. Cowell, with the time we have remaining, I want to talk about affordable housing. That's top of mind for so many families in our community, and it continues to be in short supply. You, as the CEO of the Dix Park Conservancy, know about some of the concerns around some of the plans around Dix Park and people thinking there should be more affordable housing included in those plans. How would you approach that as mayor?
Yeah, well, and I think this goes back to the city and having foresight. So when you rezone something or when you do a tax opportunity zone, understanding the impacts of those investments and making sure that you land bank, that you have property where you can do affordable housing, which does need subsidy. There is a parcel near Dix Park, and of course there's more parcels near Moore Square that have been designated for affordable housing, but I think an aggressive land banking by the city and foresight towards that would be part of the answer.
Do you think the city has been aggressive enough toward affordable housing development at this point?
No.
And you would do much more?
I would do more. I think there's a lot of, this goes back to partnerships, partnering with the county around permanent supportive housing for people who need assistance, you know, partnering with the General Assembly, who have a lot of the rules and regulations around what can be done with housing, and the conversations with developers to set the expectation.
Mr. Fitz, final question to you. Do you think that Raleigh has a clear character right now? And if so, what is it?
If I were to say it has a clear character, the workforce that we've had for years has been a work hard, play hard mentality. But I will tell you that it's waning a little bit since 2020. We used to have businesses that were open 24 hours a day. I dare you to find more than 5 that are open 24 hours a day. With our diverse population, we really have to do more to make them understand that we want them around 24/7. Most of our clients are the people who used to come into downtown Raleigh to work for the city. They're work from home. They're in Wake Forest, Wendell, Knightdale, Zebulon, Fuquay, Holly Springs. Those are bolstering those areas or taking away from our areas. We need to focus on Raleigh first.
15 seconds. Same question to you, Corey.
So Raleigh is a place, I think, where everyone has an opportunity to seek opportunities. And as a government, our job is to make sure we have no barriers in the way of them going after their goals.
I should offer you one more chance to say something too.
Well, yeah, you would hope it would be a place where everybody could meet their potential, have prosperity, feel safe, and prosper.
Ms. Cowell, Councilman Branch, Mr. Fitz, thank you all so much for your time. Coming up, Durham is seeing an arts revival right now, spearheaded by women. We sit down with the visionaries behind a new fine art gallery and jazz lounge. Welcome back. History meets history on the corner of West Parish Street. A new fine art gallery is drawing both art enthusiasts and very young students. The owner tells me she wants to help redefine who and what makes great art.
She will encrust some of her work with diamond dust, and there's texture and there's movement.
Beauty is everywhere at Ella West Gallery. On every wall, in every carefully placed frame.
Ella West Gallery represents a dream realized, not just for me, but for the artist, for our community.
Linda Shropshire is the visionary behind the state's first Black woman-owned fine art gallery, which opened last summer in Durham. When I walked in, it took my breath away, I'll be honest.
It is my hope that by doing this, that I will inspire more people to take the leap.
Her leap is a decades-long journey, starting in grade school with an art teacher in Charlotte named Winston Fletcher.
Not only did he share this information about Picasso and Sandro Botticelli and all of these amazing, great artists, but he also taught me about Edmonia Lewis, Elizabeth Catlett.
Uncertain of her role with art, Shropshire had an impromptu lunch with Fletcher's childhood friend, renowned Durham painter Ernie Barnes.
To hear his stories, to sort of get the understanding of what motivated him, the ways that art changed his life. I think it was in that place and at that time where I developed what I call my servant's heart for artists.
In 2022, Barnes's famous Sugar Shack painting depicting a night of euphoria at the Durham Armory sold at auction for $15.3 million.
And unfortunately, he was not around to see that. And so one of my goals is to make sure that the living artists of our day, they don't have to become ancestors to get the recognition they deserve and to be compensated in the way that they should be.
Her research took her to galleries and museums around the world, and she paid attention to what she saw and did not see.
For far too long, the canons of art history have been skewed towards the European male, their stories, their narratives. And so in my small way, I created this gallery to rewrite some of those narratives.
Ella West Gallery, named for her mother, seeks to tell another story. It centers the work of Black, women, and other underrepresented artists. This exhibit, called Persistence on Our Terms, features stunning paintings from Georgia artist Sachi Rome.
In her way, she creates sort of this ancestral haven, this protection, this field of protection around this little boy's dream and his hopes. And so it's just striking.
It's so delicate.
It's delicate, but it's also resilient.
And an ethereal, mosaic-like tissue installation from artist Maya Freelon, whose inspiration for this work was born in her grandmother's Durham basement.
It is audacious, it's fun, and every day I walk in, I consider it a privilege to have her represented here.
And here, this location is part of the art too.
Why Paris Street? Why was Paris Street your dream? My gosh. So for those of you who don't know the history, this was once Black Wall Street. In 1923, exactly 100 years ago, this very building that we are in was the printing press for the Durham Reformer, which was the Black newspaper. This street was lined with Black businesses. And so to be anchored here means that I am fulfilling the dreams of my ancestors.
Dreams realized, dreams yet dreamed. In Durham, Lena Tillett, WRAL News. And an arts renaissance is taking shape in Durham. A mere 0.2 miles or about 3 city blocks away is Missy Lanes Assembly Room. That's a brand new jazz lounge that opened this month. And joining us via Zoom is Missy Lanes co-owner, Cicely Mitchell. It is so great to see you, Cicely. I know you are currently sitting in Missy Lanes.
Yes, thanks for having me.
So Missy Lanes is your brainchild. Why did you want to have this space, build this space in Durham?
Well, it's always been a dream from day one to have a dedicated space for jazz. It started with helping Al Strong about 13 years ago, and we started Art of Cool. And we couldn't afford a venue, so we would take over art galleries and do pop-up jazz concerts, all with the goal in mind to have a home for jazz at some point. Along the way, we did pop-ups, and then we did a festival, and so here we are.
I have many more questions for you. We have to take a quick break, and I'll see you on the other side. Back now with the owner of Missy Lanes Assembly Room, a brand new jazz lounge in Durham, Cicely Mitchell. So you talked a little about Art of Cool. I want people to know how successful this homegrown music festival has become in Durham. And that should tell folks that you know about music and you know good music. Here's my question for you, though. This is a time when so many live music venues are closing their doors because they have found it difficult often they did this during the pandemic of getting people to their venues. So why did you want to open?
I feel like it was actually a perfect time when we were coming out of the pandemic. As I was moving about the city, people were still asking, when was Art of Cool coming back? And I had to remind them that I sold the festival to Dome Group. And it was just, a need that needed to be met. My friend owned the building and she was looking for a tenant. And so the space is a beautiful 1920 space at 310 East Main. And so all the stars aligned and the timing was right. And it really was, to me, a need that I saw coming out of the pandemic. The audience was here and we had built it before the pandemic and they were just starving for a new music venue.
Starving is right, because let me tell you, the buzz is real about Missy Lanes. We were just showing some video about it or of the venue and just the crowds that have already shown up. What do you hope the community and even North Carolina will learn about Durham's music scene through your venue?
I definitely hope that it's a platform for our, Durham and Raleigh-based musicians and area musicians to come and play, be lifted up. Connect with audiences, launch new music. Definitely wanted to be a hub, a social hub for musicians as well as those who love music.
So this is really interesting about this location as well. This is a live music venue, but you're also trying to modernize how that works. You want folks to become members of sorts. How does that work?
Yes, we have a membership to the club, and it's for that type of person that is looking for a more intimate experience. They want a more elevated experience to the club. And so there'll be some private events just for members, as well as some benefits and perks like purchasing tickets before they go on sale to be able to, get the best seats in the house. Your calendar is already so impressive. Tell us about some of the artists who are coming to perform. So this weekend, tomorrow, actually, we have John Brown and his little big band. He's a bass player. And so I guess I have two bass players this weekend, upright bass, more straight ahead traditional with John Brown on Friday. And then on Saturday, we have electric bass, funk master, Chip Sharon will be performing on Saturday. Really quickly, 15 seconds, what is your vision for Missy Lanes? My vision is that we continue to build the community. People plug in for jam sessions, which we debut our jam session tonight. Open mics. They find their lane. In the morning, we have coffee. So we just really want to be a part of the community and everyone connect with the music either by day or night. Cicely Mitchell, thank you so much for your time. For more on Missy Lanes, go to missylanes.com. Again, located on 310 East Main Street. Check them out. Have a great time. If you have something to say about tonight's discussion, email us on the record at WRAL.com or find me on social media. Have a great night.